6:31 p.m. In the absence of a board chair, I will call the meeting to order on behalf of the Regional School District 8 Board of Education. We're going to start off with a roll call. Carrie Ferlino.
Carrie Fralino Marlborough.
Joe Coletti.
Joe Coletti Hebron.
Mike Sharon.
Mike Sharon Hebron.
Kristen Erlinson.
Kirsten Erlinson, Edover.
Gabe.
Gabe Brooks Hebron.
Heather.
Heather Summer, Hebron.
Pam.
Pam Farrington, Marlborough.
Mike.
Mike Boyer Hebron.
Amy.
Amy Romanchuk, Marlborough.
Drew.
Drew Golphin, Marlborough.
And Scott.
Scott Soya, Andover.
Wonderful. Please join me to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a flag back there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next agenda item is just simply a welcome and an introduction to the board members. I know we just did this during roll call, but I would like to welcome our new board members to the Board of Ed for Region 8. Michael, and how do you say it? I want to be Bollier. All right, wonderful. Amy Romanchuk, Drew Golphin, and Scott Soyette. I've had the chance to meet with a few of you already, and I look forward to the opportunity to sit down with the ones I've not had a chance to meet with yet. And I'm very excited to work with you and the others on the board. Next on our agenda is item number 4, which is the election of officers. And we're going to do this in accordance with policy 9130. The first officer position is the election of the board chair. And at this time, I'm going to open up the floor for nominations for the position of board chair.
I'd like to nominate Heather Summer for board chair.
And is there a second?
I would like to second that.
Seconded by Joe. At this time, are there any other nominations for the position of Board of Education chair?
I would like to nominate Mike Sharon.
I'll second that.
So Mike by Carrie and seconded by Gabe. Wonderful. Are there any other nominations for the position of board chair? One last chance for any other nominations. All right, we're going to close the nominations for the position of board chair. So what we're going to do now is a roll call vote. Your vote is for the person you would like to put into the position of the Board of Education chair. So when I call your name, your vote is either going to be for Heather Summer for board chair or for Mike Sharon as board chair. All right, so I'm just going to go through and do a roll call vote. Carrie Ferlino.
Mike Sharon.
Mike Sharon.
Heather Summer.
Joe Coletti.
Heather Summer.
Kirsten.
Heather Summer.
Gabe.
Mike Sharon.
Heather.
Heather Summer.
Pam.
Mike Sharon.
Mike.
Mike Sharon.
Amy.
Heather Summer.
Drew.
Heather Summer.
And Scott.
Heather Summer.
I'm going to do some quick mathematics, which is not my strong point. I'll have my business manager tallying this with me. So I have 4 votes for Mike Sharon, which would leave me with 7 votes for Heather Summer. Is that what you have? Amazing. I never taught math, so it's actually good that I did that. I would like to congratulate Heather as the new chair of the board of Region 8 and ask her to come sit next to me so we can get to the, because I get to hand off the gavel. Let's easier if we're next to each other.
Because we're going to have to.
Yeah, we are.
That's mine.
Vice Chair.
Oh, you're like seriously handing it off right this second.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got it.
So basically, just gonna do. Open up the floor for,
Okay. Got it. Okay, so we'll open up the floor for nominations for vice chair.
Okay, I would like to nominate Joey Coletti for vice chair.
I'll second that. Gabe Marks.
Okay, any other nominations for vice chair? Okay, then we do,
just close the nomination.
okay. Close the nomination.
Just do a roll.
Roll call vote. Okay, so Carrie Ferlino,
Yes.
Joey Coletti,
Yes.
Gabe Marks,
Yes, to Joe Coletti.
Pam Farrington,
Yes.
Amy Romanchuk,
Yes.
Scott Soyette,
Yes.
Mike Sharon,
Yes, Joey Coletti.
Kristen Erlinson,
Yes.
Heather Summer, yes. Mike Bollier,
Yes.
and Drew Goffin.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Exact process.
We will open the floor for nominations for the position of secretary. I'd like to nominate Mike Sharon.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any other nominations? Okay, nominations are closed. Roll call vote. Carrie Ferlino,
Yes.
Joe Coletti,
Yes.
Gabe Marks,
Yes, to Mike Sharon.
Pam Farrington,
Yes.
Amy Romanchuk,
Yes.
Scott Soyette,
Yes.
Michael Sharon.
Yeah.
Kristen Erlinson,
Yes.
Heather Summer, yes. Michael Bollier,
Yes.
Drew Goffin.
Yes.
Okay.
One more time.
Open the floor for nominations for the position of treasurer.
Anybody? Any nominations?
Can I just remind the board that it's okay to self-nominate as well?
Yes. I'll also remind the board that this is not a position that carries a lot of responsibility.
So you said it must not be a very big budget.
Is there any investment related decisions?
No.
Now everybody's looking at you.
I'm a registered rep in compliance for a large financial services firm. This type of stuff, I have to go through a lot of red tape to get it. So I've been treasurer before, so maybe next time I have to figure out if this is a big deal, but respectfully, just.
I'll go ahead and nominate myself for treasurer.
I'll second.
Scott got the second.
Any other nominations? Okay. Nominations, do a roll call vote. Carrie Ferlino,
For Gabe?
for Gabe.
Yes.
Joe Coletti,
Yes, for Gabe.
Gabe Marks,
Yes.
Pam Farrington,
Yes.
Amy Romanchuk,
Yes.
Scott Soyette,
Yes.
Mike Sharon,
Yes.
Kristen Erlinson,
Yes.
Heather Summer, yes. Mike Bollier,
Yes.
and Drew Goffin.
Yes.
So public comments. Hebron, Andover, and Marlboro community engagement and attendance at BOE public meetings is welcomed. The public comment segment of the meeting agenda is set aside so the BOE may receive public comments. Procedurally, Public remarks will be limited to 3 minutes and citizens will be asked to identify themselves. Because the BOE is limited by the Freedom of Information Act to discussing only matters on the agenda, the BOE is not permitted to engage in a discussion of the comments presented. Oh, Gabe, will you be the timekeeper? Sure. Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody that's interested in making public comment? Anybody online?
What's that?
Dawn?
She's our board clerk.
I actually have a clarification question on something else. I can wait till after this is over if you'd like.
Yeah, let's wait till it's over, Dawn. We can go back.
Yep.
Thank you.
So no
So,
public
no
comment?
Public comment.
Then we'll move on to the student representative reports. Ava, do you want to go first?
Sure. So first of all, I would like to say Happy New Year to everyone. It's great to be back from winter break. There are some things that happened before break that I was going to say to the meeting. Recently, we had club photos taken, and seniors received a free photo of everyone, which was really great for this year. Also, we have continued the DEI meetings sporadically. We're still deliberating to see how we could possibly increase participation in those meetings. As well, we have had a swap shop occur at our school. So basically, it was run by Sydney Gula, and basically people brought in clothes and you could swap out other clothes for that. There was a ticket system. It was so cool. A lot of people got involved in that, and it might continue sometime later in the school year, maybe for progresses. So that was very interactive within the RHAM community. And actually today we had a little, for the seniors, we had this little, I would say, panel of kids who had graduated RHAM, and they spoke about their experience after graduating RHAM, basically how that transition was. It was very educational, very helpful, I feel like. And yeah, that's my report. So thank you.
I have a quick question, Ava. The
Yeah, sure.
swap shop, was that
Yeah.
sponsored by a class or was it just volunteerism?
It was volunteer, so basically there was really no need for money because it was all people would bring in clothes, and then people would take clothes from clothes that people brought in, and anything that wasn't taken from the swap shop would be donated. I actually did help run it a couple times, and basically when you brought in clothes, that clothing item, say it was a pair of jeans, that would be worth 3 tickets, and 3 tickets you could get a different pair of jeans that would be hung in that swap shop.
So it was a completely student-run operation, which was great. It was born from either one of the business classes. I don't know if it was entrepreneurship or one of the business classes, but it was a student idea. Student presented it to the high school principal. This is what I'm hoping to accomplish. This is what I need to do. We set some parameters around it, and it was set up during the context, as Eva said, during the lunch waves, and it was a great success, I think. So it was a really, really cool thing. It's a great example of a student having an idea and running with it and making it happen. So it was,
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
yeah, it's great.
Everybody always wants what's in somebody else's closet.
I mean, I definitely got stuff from there. It was I definitely got a lot of stuff. It was crazy. A really great thing that went on.
Please do it during prom season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Happened.
Oliver?
Couple meetings, I get to play the new guy and ask questions that maybe everyone else already knows. But what are the DEI meetings?
So that it's diversity and equity meeting.
Okay.
And basically students and faculty meet together and to discuss any issues or things that are going well, things that are not going so well about the social atmosphere at RHAM. Also spotlighting how diversity is dealt with and all of that. It's really just a safe place for people to share their opinions and all of that.
Oliver?
Thank you. Something speaking of transitioning, we just had a meeting today during our advisory about student like dues that we paid to the school, and a lot of juniors are getting excited for prom, and you know it seems quite like in the distance everybody's like there's a lot of tension going on. People are like asking whoever they want going as friends. I know I'm going with one of my friends. It's just a lot of excitement that's going on around it, and dues are a part of that, and I think a lot of students are just excited to be able to go to like their first, or at least for me, I know I'm going to my first like real big school event. That's like everyone. You think of high school, people think of prom. It's just a big experience for a lot of students. But something that we all have to face before we get there is midterms, which are coming up soon. And a lot of students are stressing. I know I'm feeling a little bit of tension on that. But some time starts January 17th. A lot of students are starting to prepare for it. There's a few days of class and everything. It's slowly building up, and we should hopefully get finished the next semester pretty strong.
How long do midterms last? Is it a week?
4 days. 4 days.
4 days.
I think.
You don't see jumped in quick. No, it's not a whole week.
Well, because the reason I know this is because the fact that when you have, like we had our unexpected, not a snow day, a weather day. And there was conversation, we don't move midterm exams when there's only one day that's impacting us. So that's why I know if we had another weather day, which thankfully the snowstorm looks like it's coming on Saturday, it might impact.
Okay. Yeah, so the next item on the agenda is the chair report. So let's pass on that. And then you're up for the superintendent.
Sure. So there's just a few things that I wanted to mention. I thought it was important to highlight. I had a chance to go into the panel discussion today with the graduates with the RHAM graduates, and it was really great because one of the panel members is somebody who's had some life experience and now is back working for this. It's Luke from who actually works as a library media specialist assistant para here. He's he graduated probably 5 or 6 years ago, but he was a member of the panel. It was great to see, a diverse, a broad range of experiences and backgrounds, and again, just had some really good pieces of knowledge. Rowan, our former Board of Ed student representative from last year, was there as well, so it was really good to see some familiar faces. Just some things that I wanted to touch base on. Quinnipiac University hosted the Special Olympics basketball games in late November. And Team RHAM, which is the state-sponsored team for our area, entered 3 teams, each in a different division, and 2 of the 3 teams finished second in their divisions. These 2 teams included student athletes from the high schools, Reagan Sawyer and Olivia Tagliga, and 2 team partners, Heather Connors, who's a teacher here at the middle school, and Riley Sawyer, a student at the high school. And I think it's important that we highlight the successes of our student athletes in all sorts of competitions. So it was great to see them have that success. Also in late November, Kathy Green and her students from the Medical Careers Program sponsored a blood drive at the high school. I say this, I am a big blood donor. I donate at every opportunity I can, and Kathy was not happy with me because I didn't donate because I was scheduled to donate someplace else the following week. And then what happened was I waited about 2 hours to donate blood when I did it on my own. And Kathy told me, you wouldn't have had that experience if you donated it. So I will make sure that I let board members know the next time that we do have an opportunity for blood donations. It's a great thing that Kathy and her students do. And it'd be great to have you come in and do that as well. The RHAM Drama Club performed the play Puffs back in the beginning of December, which was a great show. I had a chance to go to the opening night on Friday. I don't know if any board members had a chance to attend it as well. Puffs it's a parody of and a different perspective of the Harry Potter series. I had to look that up on Wikipedia because I didn't know what it was before. I'm sorry, on the internet before because I didn't know what it was. But it was really funny. It's a very kind of like quirky sense of humor, offbeat sense of humor. It was a great show for the kids to put together. On the subject of performing arts, we had a number of high school band and choir students who have been selected for the Eastern Region Honors Ensembles. For choir, we had Alana Calhoun, Maeve Dodonto, Evelyn Gutierrez, Caitlin Hoban, Janina Howard, Mason Kapanik, Emerson Melquist, Jaslyn Pendleton, Lindsay Raymond, and Shannon Regan. For band, we had Olivia Akari, Giovanni Assunto, Finn Blake, Jonah Izano, Maddie Graves, Natalie Groves, Reagan Haynes, Trevor Hooker, Isabel Kramer, Alexa Odie, Alex Peeling, and Jake Sawyer. So, just again, a testament to all the great things that we got going on in athletics and fine and performing arts. And that concludes my report of the superintendent.
So the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, which are in your board packet. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the regular November 20th Board of Ed meeting.
So moved. Gabe Marks.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay,
That went quickly enough that I didn't get a chance to, if we point out typos here or we don't bother with them.
We definitely could have done that.
Okay, not a big deal. I'm just-
Yeah, I would just say next time you can just say there's a couple of minor typo changes that we could make, and then we can certainly add those into the corrected minutes.
Okay.
okay, the next item on the agenda is the student program spotlight, and tonight we've got RHAM volleyball.
And so we'll just give them a chance to come on in. For some reason, they didn't really want to sit in the audience during the
Oh, why?
business portion of our board meeting. So I'll just, before I turn it over to Mr. Trudeau, our athletic director, I'll just simply say, and Coach Guernsey's heard me say this before. So one of my first introductions to RHAM was as a volleyball parent for a different school. And that was not a fun experience. I can tell you that. My daughter was a volleyball player in Thailand. You guys just basically kicked their butts, and it was tough to watch that as a parent. Now, as a superintendent for RHAM, it's pretty awesome. And so it's a really big event when you have a team win a state championship. It's a pretty big event when you have a team win 2 state championships in a row, but a three-peat to me warrants getting recognized by the board. And I appreciate the coaches and the team for being here. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Trudeau.
Thank you. Thank you. Really, I'm here to speak on behalf of this team, the coaching staff, and even the parents a little bit to just say, thank you for giving them this recognition and this chance to come out in front of you, more from a perspective of speaking to them and speaking about them, just to know a little bit more and expand upon what Dr. McNamara said. Yep, this is a group that's won 3 state championships in a row. This program has only been around for about 20 years, and they've won 10 state championships. I know that their first year as a program, which was, I think I was a freshman in college, they didn't even have a gym for playing. They traveled for all their games. So to come this far that quickly is unheard of. And that is a testament to their leader, Coach Guernsey, who I will say, you don't even have to say volleyball. He's one of the best high school coaches in the country. And I truly mean that when I say that. I would have him coach any sport at this school. I would have him coach any sport at any school in the state, and put him up against that because of his leadership. And because of that leadership, it brings such a unique experience in the program, and what these girls who go through the program get. A lot of times in athletics, we talk about the life skills that you're going to get from playing on a high school team and how that translates. To be honest, it's not always 100% that you're getting. You could play for a coach that has poor moral values, or just poor structure in the way they do it. This program is the exemplar for, again, any high school team in the country, any high school athletic program in the country, of how to run a program where you're going to get something out of it. You're going to get a life experience that you can rely on when you're 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old. These girls get up probably 30 times during the season, at least 30 times during the season for 6 a.m. practices. And a lot of those times, they're still practicing again after school. I can speak for myself. I wish I kind of had more of that discipline to wake up that early in the morning when I was in high school and create that habit for myself. I've said this before, a team that wins 10 state championships or 3 state championships in a row, you're usually looking at actually a team that wins a single state championship in a season. It could be their first ever. You're usually looking at a group of superior athletes. These are great student athletes, but I'm going to say they're usually not the most athletic group, but they're cohesive. They're a sisterhood of girls that outworks everyone. Is anyone taking that as an insult? I don't want to.
I thought, yeah, I did too.
It's about how hard you guys work and what you guys have earned through that. And the truth is, a lot of times we're playing against teams that are taller. We don't have a girl that's 6 feet on this team. Lots of the teams they play against have girls that these girls probably look at and they think they're biceps. And their ability to come together and beat that adversity on a consistent basis is a testament to their hard work, their dedication, their parents' hard work, their parents' dedication to this program and what they put into it by driving them when they're freshmen and sophomores at 6 a.m. in the morning. And just that togetherness that they have, what they do for our school community is well deserved. More than just the Board of Ed recognition, but we are certainly very, very proud of these girls and thankful to be here to get this recognition. So I think I've talked enough and extended your agenda. So just one more congratulations for these girls. And if anyone has anything to say, any questions, I think we can do that.
Congratulations, you guys. I played in volleyball when I was in high school, which was a really long time ago. And it was nothing like what you guys do. There was no getting up at 6 a.m. or any of that. So congratulations. Curious by a show of hands, how many of you think you're going to play volleyball in college or would like to? Great.
It'll probably be less taxing than Guernsey's practice. So just to,
Anybody have other questions?
I'd like to. No question.
yeah, I agree.
I appreciate you had to share, Mr. Schmidt.
Smith.
Well, hold on.
Hang on.
Mike, you can say something?
Me? No, I was gonna say exactly what Kristen said, so thank you for doing so. You guys did.
So we like to take a picture with the student groups that come with the board. We're trying to get better. Maybe put you like this, we give to the boosters, maybe send it into the River East. So if you don't mind, we'd love to have a picture with you. And we can just do it in front of you.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, kneeling down.
No, that's a short. Good follow.
I think we're gonna have to.
One, two, three. You're good.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Like, we're rude, don't we? Okay.
Audience.
All right, so the next thing on our agenda is the consent agenda. In your package is the resignation letter from Jessica Blodgett. We have a recommendation to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is that Scott? A second?
I'll second.
So I'll just say, I'm very excited for Jessica. She was an absolute asset to the school district, but she had an opportunity to increase her quality of life by going to a school district that is a walkable distance from her house. And it's the school where she grew up and went to school. So I'm happy for her. Sad for us. But we're fortunate we got somebody to step into the position, and we wish Jessica the best.
All right. Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Item 12 is old business. Oh, right. Okay. This is the discussion of the RHAM high school of choice.
Yes. So veteran board members have had some conversation about this in the past. But I'll just give a quick context for our new board members who are joining us this evening for the first time. So since I started here at RHAM for the start of the 22-23 school year, we've had a few conversations at the board level in both the finance subcommittee and at the whole board about whether or not we would be interested in serving as a school of choice for local area, either other K-6 districts or potentially a K-8 district. Last year, I had a conversation with a local area superintendent of a small school district. Didn't really gain much traction, and the conversations just fell flat. This year, we find ourselves in a similar situation, but a little bit of a different scenario. And what I mean by that is we were approached by Columbia Public Schools, who attended a finance subcommittee probably back in October. I think it was back in October, and did a comprehensive presentation and expressed a lot of interest in sending their students or making RHAM a choice school. Right now, kids, when they graduate from Forrest Porter School, have the opportunity to choose between either Bolton High School or E.O. Smith High School. And essentially what the administration from Columbia Public Schools said to us was they believe that there is a high degree of interest from students and families in Columbia for a whole host of reasons they'd want to choose RHAM as their school of choice if that was an option for them. And the way that the conversations have really been up to this point have I think I'm capturing it accurately, have really been about the financial aspect of things. It is an opportunity for this district to see some revenue. And that is something that this board may be interested in. And what we had talked about it back in October, ultimately where we landed coming out of the finance subcommittee was there's going to be a new board that gets seated soon with some new members. And let's see what the appetite is of the dynamics of the new board. And I'm going to ask Heather to jump in if she thinks I'm mischaracterizing this in any way. But I think that we need to look at it more than just a financial decision, even though finances is certainly part of it because it's a possibility for revenue. I I don't think we should look at it from a pure dollars and cents standpoint and say we either want the money or don't want the money. For context, the tuition that would be, we could determine what our tuition would be with and for Columbia students. That would be something that we would negotiate with the district. They have different tiers of money that they spend. They pay a certain dollar amount for students who choose to go to Bolton. They pay a different dollar amount for students that choose to go to E.O. Smith. We could feasibly negotiate a different rate for students to come to RHAM if that's what the appetite of this board is. But what I feel we need to talk about is, as a board, do we want to open up our doors to students from other towns, or at least one other town? There's a contract that we would enter into. There's agreements that would be put into place that say, here's what the standard tuition is for a student coming from another town, with essentially no extras. But if that student required special education services, or if that student had a 504 plan and required occupational therapy or physical therapy, there's additional costs that would get tacked on that the sending district would pay. So all of that stuff would be put out in writing and very, very well defined prior to us actually taking students from another school. So I say this because I think it's important to know, if we set a dollar amount for this is what the tuition rate is, that's not necessarily what the tuition rate is going to be for a student who may require a high degree of services beyond a traditional classroom setting. Because there are costs associated with that when you talk about specialized education and specialized services. So what I would like to be able to do is, and I'm not saying it's necessarily going to come out of this meeting tonight. I think it's a lengthy conversation. And it's certainly nothing that I'm suggesting that we would even think about for next school year. But I think that we should, if it's something that, from a philosophical standpoint, if members of this board are interested in opening RHAM up as a school of choice for students from Columbia, on a philosophical level, then we'd have to look to see, does it make sense from a practical standpoint and from a financial standpoint? I've spoken way too much. I don't know if Heather, if you have anything, because I know you've been involved in the conversations with the finance side.
Yeah, I mean, I think you represented it very well. I think tonight's decision is, do we really want to look at this seriously? And then from there, we probably need to get a subcommittee that's going to look at all the different issues, financial, administrative, obligations of the principal of middle school, principal of the high school, like what are all those things, but it will take time. So I think tonight is just, do we have the appetite to even consider it? And then, can we figure out who would be on the subcommittee?
Can I add, if that's okay?
Yeah.
To your thoughts. I think that with new members of the board coming in and some members that haven't participated in the budgetary process, I think that I think what we should do tonight, my suggestion is to not necessarily to table this topic for post-budgetary consideration. And the reason that I say that is I think that those of you that haven't participated in the budget process are going to learn quite a bit more about what the future holds for Region 8 relative to enrollment and some of the challenges that that's going to present us. I think that that's going to give us some additional context relative to why we might want to consider being a school of choice. So I think that the decision tonight is perhaps, do we consider continuing to talk about it in the future and then maybe look to put that
Figure out what,
subcommittee together maybe after the budgetary process has been completed?
Yeah, and the budgetary process is starting now, right? Until.
Correct. Well, the budget goes to the 3 towns for referendum in April. May, sorry, my apologies, May.
But our frequency of meetings begins to pick up in February relative to understanding what proposals are on the table, what the budget's going to look like, what our enrollment looks like, right? There is a fair number of, perhaps some of you, when you signed up for the board, thought there was going to be once a month during budget season, it is a little bit more frequent, just to let you know. But yeah, February through March, and then we get ready for April reviews that are open to the public, and then of course the referendum.
And actually, the budget process may help us identify other questions that we have in consideration of having students or not to have with students.
That's what I'm thinking.
Before we table this, two questions. One is transport is covered by the sending town, right?
Correct,
So that wouldn't be a concern.
correct.
And is there any sense of Columbia's notion of how many other numbers, how many students?
It's a great question. So I wouldn't say that this is anywhere near a hard and fast number,
It can't be.
but through the conversation that we had with the administration from Columbia, they anticipated approximately 10, they usually graduate about 40 students from 8th grade. The majority of those students do go to E.O. Smith, but because of informal conversations that the administration has had with family members in the school district, many parents approach them and say, RHAM's essentially in my backyard. Why am I having my kid get on a bus and drive 45 minutes to E.O. Smith? You know, I don't want to say anything disparagingly against any other schools or districts, but I think people see RHAM as a beautiful school building and lots of opportunities for athletics and for fine arts. So the short answer is what the number that they gave to us is they would figure 10 initially. And they said that, you know, obviously as you build up over the years, they would anticipate that number growing. But great question.
So,
Oh, what would the
yeah, but
suggested path forward be?
yeah, I guess we just want to understand
Yeah,
how people feel.
I just think,
It's not really a vote though.
no, we're not looking for any action this evening in any way. This is, as I said, when this came up in the fall at a really interesting time because we knew we had several board members that were going to be leaving.
Mhm.
We knew that we're going to have several new board members coming on. And the idea was, let's not do anything until we get our new board members involved. And so this is on the agenda. This is purely a discussion. This is just, I felt it was prudent to bring the issue forward, say, this is kind of what we've been talking about. And it's conversations that we've been having, and it's been ongoing conversations. I feel like we're in a really good place because I feel like there are many other school districts that literally go after students from K to 6 or K to 8 districts, like where superintendents and boards like will reach out and say, we would love to have you come to us because they look at it from that revenue standpoint, right? So we're in a good place in the sense of, I think that your idea is a good one, Mike, is just, you know, we can get through the budget season. I just wanted to make sure that this was on people's plate and they were aware of the fact that these conversations were taking place, and we can take whatever direction the administration and I can take whatever direction the board gives to us coming out of this conversation.
We have a question from online.
Is it a board member?
It's Pam. Pam, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, I just, and Colin, you may not really know the answer to this, but as a parent, I always wondered why children from Columbia did not come to us, and why they did. You know, I know quite a few who traveled to E.O. Smith, and seems kind of like a hike. Do you have any idea as to why we did not take students in the past? Again, you may not know the answer to this. It was just, I actually always wondered why they had choices to go to different places, but not to us.
I don't have an answer to that question, Amy. What I can say to you, though, is I know that this is not the first time, and Dr. Scruci is nodding, acknowledging this, because I know he's got a lot more historical knowledge. This is not the first time that this has been brought up. I think the difference between in previous years and what we're seeing now, for context, I think maybe existing or veteran board members know this, but maybe our new board members don't, is Scott, who was the acting superintendent here for the last 2 years before I came on board, has been working in Columbia Public Schools for the past year and a half as an interim assistant superintendent. And I have a sneaking suspicion that he might be talking up how good of a district RHAM is. And I think that people know that he is a conduit to us as an administrative group, as a board. And so Scott Leslie, he was the one that reached out to me because, as I said, the conversation took place with a different district last year. It just never really got any traction. I think that there is a real yearning on the part of, and Amy was just talking about this, on a decent number of people from Columbia. And I think that they're probably more apt to speak up to Scott Leslie. And now he's coming to us and letting us know about this. And, he was the one that reached out to me and said, could we do a presentation to your board, to the board subcommittee? If it ever travels down the road, they would come here and do a presentation for the entire board. But I think that your idea is a good one too.
Yeah, I would make a motion to add it to an agenda, to the agenda immediately following our budgetary review. That way we document it, it's in the minutes, and we can go ahead and add it at that time.
Yeah. I think that's good.
The May meeting.
One-
Yeah, I think that's
Depending on
one.
So I have a question because I did attend the meetings in the fall as a member of the public. And one of the issues that came up was financial. So I think your point about the budget is spot on. The question I had was, so essentially what Columbia would offer, or any other school would offer, is sort of a marginal per student rate. And I'm wondering whether our budgetary process has a calculation like that in it, a sort of a fixed cost calculation and a marginal per student calculation. Because one of the issues was communicating whatever decision it's made to our publics. And of course, Marlboro, Andover, and Hebron pay much more per student because they got to pay for the building, right? So do we, as part of our budgetary process, have we looked at fixed versus per student costs and things like that? And is this the time to start thinking about something like that if we're going to open that door?
So the information that I have, I will say typically, but I've done it once, so I can't say typically. But what I provide to the board is what the state has identified as what the district's per pupil expenditure is, right? The average amount that for the cost of education for a RHAM student. The reason that this came up last, I think it was in the November meeting, was because the finance subcommittee was trying to get a more accurate representation of what that dollar amount might be. So, and because the per pupil expenditure that's provided to us by the state doesn't take into consideration several factors, right? The number is somewhere in the neighborhood of 25.
Almost 20.
It's in the low 20s.
Mhm.
I will tell you that there's not a school district, there's not a neighboring school district that is going to pay $21,000 to have one of their kids go here. But that is factoring in things, and something that you mentioned, that's factoring in transportation costs. That's factoring in special education costs. That's factoring in a lot of different things that you can pull out of that dollar amount that's identified by the state and get down to what is a real cost per pupil when you take out transportation and you take out. And so we went through that exercise a little bit prior to our November meeting. I don't know if we landed in a place of total agreement with what that number is. Because I don't want to sound all over the place, but it's not a simple answer. It's really, really hard to pin it down because towns, we don't get certain funding from the state because we're regional, but the towns get certain fundings from the state. And that money offsets what their local cost is for education. Well, we don't get that, but towns like Marlboro, towns like Hebron, towns like Andover, they get those dollar amounts given to them. So it's a complicated thing to do what you're trying to do.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I just don't know if we would ever say, oh yeah, this is the number. We could talk and say, this is pretty close to what the number is, but I don't know if we could ever say this is specific.
We don't need the perfect to be the enemy of the good either,
Correct.
right? So, I mean,
100%.
it's-
Correct.
Yeah.
Colin, quick question. Would you think, because the final budget approval is in early April, right, from the board. Do you think an April meeting for that topic would be appropriate, or should it be the May meeting?
I would defer to the board.
So Joey made a good point, and he said that assuming the budget passes that referendum, right? Because if it does not, then we go back.
Yeah.
The administration and our support goes back to the drawing board, and we've got some additional work to do. I think that this discussion, in my opinion, is one that can be had after that process is 100% complete.
Sorry.
No, that's quite right. And so I don't want to cloud the issue of finding our budget forward. And I don't think that we're on a timeline either. As Colin mentioned, we're not targeting next year to make this happen. But I think waiting until after the budgetary process is complete gives us an opportunity, even before the summer break, to try to make some decisions, I think, about how we want to go forward.
So schedule it for the first meeting after the budget is passed?
I think that's fair to do so. Yeah.
One of the things that we could do, and so we don't even have to identify, I know that you talked about making a motion.
Sure.
We don't even have to go to that level of formality. What you're saying to me is, hey, Colin, make sure that this gets put on the agenda for the first meeting after the budget's passed. That's as easy as, that's simple as that. And then that way there's a degree of flexibility depending on how.
I like that.
Just, is it customary that the school that wants to come to the district sets the price? Because it seems to me like we would set the price to say, if you want to bring your students here, this is what it costs. And to me, it shouldn't matter whether you're from Columbia or whether you're from Franklin, or it's the same price. Or is that, what's the do you know the standard for other schools?
I wouldn't feel equipped to answer that question because I've not gone through this process before, but what I would say, it would make the most sense that if we have a district that's coming to us and say, we're interested in having our kids go to school at your high school, then we should drive that conversation. And I think, if the amount that they're giving E.O. Smith is $14,500 and we go in and we say, we want $17,000, that, I don't know what they, if we go in and said, hey, we want $1,000 more, I think that's the negotiation process. So I think that we would have the ability to negotiate a rate that might be different from what they pay E.O. Smith. I just don't know what would be a realistic number to land on, but that would be figured out through the conversation that we would have if we get through the philosophical conversations and decide ultimately this is what we're interested in doing.
Do they also have a relationship with Lyman? They did 30 years ago when I subbed there.
Yeah, they go to Wyndham Tech, Lyman, because Lyman has an agricultural program, and then Bolton and Houston. Those are the four. Yeah.
Any other comments on that? Okay.
I think there might have been an online question. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pam. Thank you. Pam, did you have another question?
I did, just very quickly. Someone mentioned the timeline. Colin, do you have an idea of what how long it does take? Obviously, like you said, we would not necessarily be thinking about this for the next school year, but how long does it take to get something like this going if we were interested?
I think that if we were in a situation where we really started to opened up the conversations after the budget passes this year, and if we landed at a place, if the board lands at a place where they say, yes, we are interested, then having an agreement and a contract to put into place for the following school year is very, very doable. The standard, the contracts between districts are fairly standard, right? The language of the contracts is fairly standard. It's just once you come up with what the numbers are. So again, if we started the process late in the spring, spent, late spring and in the fall talking about it and then making a determination as for it to go into effect for the following school year would be very feasible.
I have a question. Do we know when the 8th graders from Columbia have to choose a school by?
That's a great question. I don't have that definitive time period. I could tell you though, they start to point in a certain direction right around now. Because as I said, when I had the last conversation I had with Scott Leslie, because as I said, he had come and presented to us as a finance subcommittee, and he reached out to me several weeks ago and he just said, what do you think? Where do you think things are? And I told him we were waiting for the new board members to get seated. We're going to be bringing it up at our December, now January meeting. And I just said, you could take us off the table for next year for sure. And he said, that's great. It's helpful for him to have that information. So I think they start to figure things out because, as I said, there are budgetary impacts for Columbia because there is a different dollar amount depending on whether you go to E.O. Smith or whether you go to Bolton.
And then the last question that I had was, our middle school is 7th and 8th grade, their school is K through 8. So are they looking to have their 6th graders come here for middle school, or is it just right from their 8th grade to our high school?
All the conversations we've had has only been about high school students. They're not looking to dismantle their middle school.
Okay.
Yeah. They still would be a K to 8 district. And
Following on to that, like if they start, could they come potentially in the 10th grade? Like decide?
those are all things that we
Would be on the table.
would decide. Those are all things.
Okay. Anybody else? Online? Eric, we're good? Okay, so that brings us to the second read of policies. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll just start off. So for the second reading of policy, so we had a first reading of policies at our last meeting. After our first reading of policies, if there's feedback that is provided, it's given to us generally during that period. If we are able to then make adjustments to anything based off of that feedback, we do that and then we put them up, we post them in the agenda. And so I did not get any feedback prior to the agenda being posted. That's an important thing to know, feedback prior to the agenda being posted. I say that for someone. So we posted the agenda as they had been in the first read. So there's 3 policies that we're looking at making changes to. I'll just speak at a very high level, and then I think the best thing for us to do would be to go through and do motions for each one and see if there's discussions with any of them. So the 3 policies we're looking at for second readings tonight need to be updated to ensure that they align with current legislation. For our newer board members, we went through the process of a policy audit last year, which provided us with a lot of insight as far as prioritizing certain policies to be updated. And we work with our legal counsel, Shipman and Goodwin, and we use their model policies. So when we update our policies, we are comparing them to their model policies, which are put together by a team of attorneys who are very savvy with the legislative changes that need to be made. So our 3 policies for our second read tonight are cover the following topics: alcohol, tobacco, and drug-free workspace, employment and student teacher checks, and possession and use of deadly firearm weapons or firearms. And I think the best thing for us to do is do a motion for approval for each motion, see if there's a motion to approve each one. And then after we get a motion in a second, open it up for discussion and see if there's any feedback from board members.
Okay, so do we have a motion to adopt the revised policy 4118.2, 4218.2, alcohol, tobacco, and drug-free workplace as presented?
So moved.
We have a second.
That was Carrie.
Carrie? Okay, any discussion? Scott, I'm waiting for you to give us a
Next.
Perfect. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? All right, a motion to adopt the revised policy 4157 and 4257, employment and student teacher checks as presented. We have a motion to,
So moved.
is that carried?
That's me. Yes.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I had some questions on this one. Nothing about the content, only about the structure of it. You can see a bit, lots of handwritten notes all over this. And we went back to Shipman and Goodwin with my questions, and they said, well, maybe you want to do this instead. So I'm going to move that we table this one. I will submit another version to the policy committee to look at. But a couple places the language just seemed wrong. They put things together that didn't belong together. They basically take, for some ones like this, they take the law, they take the statute and just convert it from, boards shall do this to the district will do, it does this, and so on. And in some places they combine some things that weren't, I think legally weren't expected to be combined. So I would move to table this one. And we can submit my suggestions to the policy committee. And it's not a huge change. One wording change that accepted from Shipman and Goodwin, and one that I continue to say that we should do, and it's basically just take this thing from section 1.B.2.A.sub3, and instead of being part of 1, 2, and 3, it goes up to a higher level. That's really it. But it's structurally enough different that I don't think we could just do it as a minor amendment here.
Okay, so then we would,
So I move to table this one for another meeting.
okay, I think we have to vote on it. to
So
table
there's
it.
a motion on the table, so you can either make a vote there could be a motion to amend, somebody could make a motion to amend the motion that has been put on, or we could vote, it gets voted down, and then a separate vote after that would be to table it.
I haven't read through my Roberts entirely yet, but I thought you could move to table a motion that's on the floor.
I'm not I know Robert's rules as well. I don't have that level of expertise, but I think the cleanest, easiest thing to do.
I think when you have a motion with a second, it gets voted on.
Yeah. So I think you vote on it. If the board doesn't want to pass it, it doesn't pass. And then we could just go back to the policy subcommittee with the recommended changes and just work with the legal firm.
I'd suggest that we vote this one down for the moment.
Okay, so
We vote on the original motion.
any other conversation on it? And then it's a motion to approve and then,
The motion's already been made, so just.
Or I mean-
it would be a vote, and I would recommend doing the roll call vote because.
okay,
I have a clarifying question, for Scott. Scott, are you indicating that the structure of the document is such that it changes the meaning of the verbiage within the document?
A little bit, yeah. And in one place a lot, in one place a little bit.
Just the only point I wanted to make is that it is strictly, if it is structure that has no impact on the message, our legal expenses do. Right, every time we engage the Shipman and Goodwin, it costs us money.
Right.
Okay.
I think this one is, well, in one case, it's serious enough. And when we went back to Shipman and Goodwin with it, they did say, oh, actually, this might be better language.
Okay.
So that's included in my alternative.
All right, just want to clarify. Thank you.
Yeah.
okay, so we'll do a roll call vote on this. Carrie, Berlino,
I vote to approve it.
okay. Joe Coletti,
Yes.
Gabe Marks,
Yes.
Pam Farrington,
Yes.
Amy Romanchuk,
Yes.
Scott Soyette,
No.
Mike Sharon,
Yes.
Kristen Erlinson,
Yes.
Heather Summerer. I'm going to vote no. Mike Bollier
Yes.
and Drew Golphin.
No.
Okay. It's 8, yes, and yeah. Okay. So the motion passes 8-3. Oops. Okay. The next item on the agenda is possession and use of deadly weapons or firearms. We have a motion to adopt the revised policy 1435, possession and use of deadly weapons or firearms as presented. We have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second,
I'll second.
Carrie? Discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
So I'll just take a few minutes to speak to the other three policies. So one of the things that our policy audit provided us feedback on is that we have a fair amount of policies that exist in our policy handbook that the attorneys that we work with were recommending repeal for a variety of reasons, or at least consideration for repeal, as I should say. So there are the three policies, the first three policies that we are looking at, that we are recommending for repeal. And again, this was discussed by the policy subcommittee. It was done a first read last time, and I got no feedback on them prior to the posting of the agenda. Was they pertain to the student use of motor vehicles, leaving school grounds, and student dismissals. Those are all topics that are currently covered in the student handbook. And essentially, that was one of the pieces of feedback that the attorneys at Shipman gave to us was that if it's not a significant issue, it could be covered in the student handbooks. It can be covered in the student handbook sufficiently. The only other policy which deals with student interviews is something that is addressed directly by building administration, who do not provide access to students during the context of the school day. And we just simply don't do that. That's not our practice. It would be a violation of FERPA if we did. So we are recommending the policy subcommittee's recommendation, along with my recommendation, was to delete the policies that are in front of you, the four policies in front of you. So I would do the same thing.
Okay. Okay, so we are up to 12.2D in your packet. Recommendation to delete the policy 5214, student use of motor vehicles. We have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Any abstentions? And the motion passes. Okay, 12.2E in your packet, leaving school grounds. A motion to delete policy 5212, leaving school grounds.
So moved.
I'll second.
That was, Carrie, was that you?
Yes, that was.
Sorry.
No
And-
worries.
Who
Was your
seconded? Scott seconded? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that motion passes. Right, that brings us to 12.2F in your packet, dismissal of students. Recommendation to delete the policy 5211, dismissal of students. You have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Or second.
Michael second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. 12.2G, student interviews. A motion to delete policy 5210, student interviews.
So moved.
Gabe,
Second.
second, Drew. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Okay, that brings us to new business.
So
The school year calendar.
school year calendar. So included in your board packet tonight is a copy of a draft calendar for next year's academic year. I'll tell you that I work with the 3 sending districts. So I work with the districts of Andover, Marlborough, and Hebron. I also take a look and see what the EastCon calendar is looking like, and we try to coordinate with other neighboring districts as much as we can. The calendar follows the same format. We're starting prior to the Labor Day weekend. We have our 3 days prior to the start of school. We come in for a couple of days, have Labor Day off, and then we're in full swing. I coordinate the early release days for professional development as well with the elementary school districts. And I would recommend that the calendar be approved by the board as presented.
Okay. We have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Drew? Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, passes. The Board of Ed meeting dates.
So the next enclosure in your packet is the draft of the Regional School District 8 Board of Education meeting dates. So we always set the meeting for next January when we do our meeting for the calendar year. So this has the meeting dates from February of 2024 to January of 2025. We follow the same format, which is typically the 3rd Thursday. There are some, that's called return from vacation. I apologize. The 3rd Monday of most months. And you can see we do note when it is different from that. We do have one first Monday. That is strictly for the presentation of the budget that we're required to do by policy on April 1st for our public budget hearing. And then we do have a couple of second Mondays and a few fourth Mondays. And that's just because of holidays or other events that are interrupting that 3rd Wednesday. Third Monday each month. So I would recommend, unless there's any questions or concerns with this, I would recommend the board considering adopted.
So is this in stone, or because I already have a conflict or two? So how do we address that, right? I'm going to actually be out of the country.
You don't have to attend every single meeting is one consideration.
Yeah. I'd like to though.
I agree.
Yeah. So, I don't know how people feel about that. In particular, I'm a little concerned about the May 20th meeting. That might have budget issues that still need to be resolved. Is that possible? And I'm actually going to be out of the country on that day.
Wow.
I'm actually in Greece from May 14th to June 1st.
I would say that over the last 2 budget seasons, our budget has passed at the first go around. Now, that's not to say that that's going to happen every year.
Can everyone knock on wood?
Right. But it's highly likely that any budgetary meetings that we would need to have would be called immediately that week thereafter. And so we would look to resolve that as quickly as possible.
Early in May then, so that wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I can't promise you that they won't carry into the regular meeting, but the regular meetings do traditionally have their own agendas that are not budgetary.
Okay.
So,
All right, well, that's good to know, right? Because I want to do my job.
yeah, May 20th is not intended to cover any budgetary.
No, but there's our budget meetings that we scheduled are not in here at all
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so
between now and April. So
there'll be budget workshops that'll be scheduled that are in addition to what you see on this, right? This is intended to cover regular meetings and public and district budgetary meetings, right? So there are others that will be held. Traditionally, every year, the department heads will come in and put together and present a proposal that talks about why they're asking for the budget that they're asking for that particular year. So we get to hear directly from the folks that are preparing those requests. And so those will be added to the calendar as well.
Good. Okay.
Carrie?
Hi, sorry, I just want to add a comment. I think we need to just be cognizant there's a lot of us and our schedules don't always align. And as much as all of us are here to do what's best, we can't always make everything. So, I think it's important for all the new members to realize there's no judgment in that. And that we also need to be very cognizant of the schedules of the superintendent as well and all the evening meetings that occur. So that's just my 2 cents.
Good. Excellent. I'm happy.
There's always a dial too, by the way.
Yeah.
I know you may
I'm
be.
sure you'll want to do some great.
Yeah. I'll call in 6 hours later.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve the 2024 Board of Ed meeting dates. We have a motion? What? Gabe?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Any abstentions? All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so the next item for the agenda is just a first high-level presentation that I put together related to budget. So Eric, sure. Okay. So the first slide just highlights Board of Education. Oh, my apologies.
Nope, never mind.
Just the first slide highlights Board of Education Policy 3110, which talks about the fact that at our December meeting, which we're having, of course, in January, we're supposed to do a presentation just to kind of discuss some things that are going to have an impact on the budget. So we wanted to make sure that we put this together to meet that objective. Next slide, please, Eric. I won't read these. I try not to be a person that reads slides as they get presented, but this just talks about some of the different commitments of the district, which guide our budget planning process. And I just think they're important to bring to the surface. Next slide, please, Eric. So this is something I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about because it's a drum that I've been beating since I got hired here. I think that RHAM for many years has been seeing declining enrollment. It's been something that I heard a lot about when I was hired to come into the district, and it's something that I have continued to hear about. Enrollment's declining. And the reason I think it's important to highlight this is because I think that oftentimes people think when there's declining enrollment, there should be significant budgetary reductions. And I just wanted to make sure that I point out that that's really not an accurate narrative in the sense of we are going to see some slight declining over the next couple of years, but we have seen a substantial increase at the elementary levels over the past handful of years, primarily in Hebron, but Marlboro is also seeing an increase in enrollment as well, the elementary schools, and those enrollment increases at the elementary levels are making their way up to our district. Dr. Sharusi at the middle school, I think, is going to hold steady for the next year or two, and then he's going to start to see an uptick. At the high school, they're going to see a decrease over the next few years by what I would consider not to be a significant amount. And these are our enrollment projections. So our current enrollment for October 1, 2023 is 1,148. That's the number that we provide to the state. That's what we use as our state reported enrollment numbers. And you can see if you look at the projected enrollment, so that gives, you can see that at grades 7 through 12, which is the second column over from the far right, you can see that we're slated to go down by about 30 students. We're projected to go down by about 30 students for next year. And then we're going to go down again. We're projected to go down by approximately 40 students the year after that. And then we hold steady and then we start to see an enrollment uptick. And I just think that it's really important that we talk about that and make sure that it's something that we really put on the forefront of people's minds because we are not a district that's seeing a decline in enrollment anymore. No, we're not seeing that substantial decline in enrollment. We're not anticipating it. The numbers at the elementary level are real. I talked to Tom Baird and Holly Hageman, the superintendents for Hebron and Marlboro, on a regular basis, and I know those kids are going to be coming up here. So in fact, if you look, our 10-year projection has us at almost 200 more students than what we are currently slated, that what we currently have right now. So, and I think it's also important to point out, as RHAM's projected enrollment is going up by 200 students over the next 10 years, you could see that the projected enrollment for K-6 is projected to go up by another 300. And that trend of increasing enrollment based off of projections is not looking like it's going to slow down anytime soon. If you want to go to the next slide for me, please, Eric. So I thought it was just important to provide board members with a timeline to date. So it's pretty remarkable to think about. It kind of hits you pretty quick when I started. I remember being how surprised I was when I started here last year. Eva said, we need to get on the calendar and start distributing the budget book to administrators and department coordinators and budget owners so that they could start the process of putting their budgets together. And we begin that process in early October. Eva and myself meet, and the building principals meet with all department coordinators to review the department budget, each department budget, and discuss needs. Eva and I also meet with the athletic director, pupil services director, facilities director, and director of tech and communication to do the same thing. We update our personnel budget during the month of November based off of what we anticipate needing for the following year. And then obviously we're at this point right now where we are sharing any significant budget drivers next year. Next slide, please, Eric. So priorities in budget planning, they remain the same as what I had for last year, which is to support academic and social. RHAM, the next one is RHAM has what I would call to be a program of studies that is envied by many other school districts. We were just talking about RHAM being a desirable school to come to. And one of those reasons is we have such a wide array of classes and opportunities for our students with our program of studies. And we always are looking to expand upon that. We want to make sure that we're utilizing the best curriculum and instructional practices. A big thing is to improve or maintain facilities and grounds. I think that RHAM is often talked about and referred to as the new school, which, comparatively speaking, to buildings in Hebron and Marlboro and Andover, it is. Those superintendents like to tease me and call RHAM the Taj Mahal. But RHAM is also 20 years old at this point. And Mike, as the facilities subcommittee chair, could talk about this, but we're looking at some major mechanical systems reaching the end of their anticipated shelf life, right around 20 years. So we're talking about significant investments in the not so distant future for related to facilities, just maintaining and improving those. And then obviously the last bullet is certainly of utmost importance, which is to ensure a safe and school environment for students. Next slide, please, Eric. So there are factors certainly influencing the 24-25 operating budget, inflation, much in the same way that as inflation is affecting everybody's lives at this moment. It's certainly affecting our budget, and we're seeing increased costs for goods and materials, increased costs for labor with contractors, and we're anticipating increases for utility costs as well. Some other things that are impacting us are an anticipated decrease in excess cost funding. The district receives grant funding called the excess cost grant from the state on a yearly basis, and it is for, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, it is for large special ed costs that the district has to incur. The state tries to help alleviate some of that financial burden of those significant special ed costs. And so we get money from the state every year, and we're seeing a decrease in the amount of money. So it's a decrease in revenue essentially for us is going to have an impact. With regards to special education, out of district placements is going to have an impact on our budget for next year because we're going to have an increase in the number of special education out of district placements. And we're also going to see an increase in the tuition costs for the schools where we have those students in outplacements. We're also, for special education, seeing an increase in transportation costs. Health insurance is a big driver. So I will tell you that this is something that we've had a lot of conversation about. So for those of you that are not aware of it, RHAM participates in a regional insurance consortium. So we are self-insured along with a large number of other entities. The 3 other school districts that feed into RHAM, RHAM, and then the 3 towns that feed into RHAM as well. So we are all part of an insurance consortium. And so, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, if I say anything, he was good about doing that. So through what I would call strategic and well thought out use of reserve funding that we have had over the past handful of years, we have been able to suppress the insurance increases from one year to the next. So through low claims, good management of money, we've had a surplus of money in our insurance healthcare reserve, right? So we have to keep a certain dollar amount. Eva could get into the details, but we're required by the consortium to keep a certain dollar amount to pay claims that come in. And we had a certain dollar amount that was above that number. And so the consortium was very strategic in how they used that money to suppress insurance cost increases over the past probably 3 or 4 years. And I say that just to give you context, we've had a 0 in that time period. I think last year we were 1.5. So last year to this year we were 1.5. We're looking at a 12.5 currently. That's a substantial number, and it's going to impact the budget. It's not to say that that's the dollar amount where we are going to land in the end. We meet monthly as an insurance consortium, and we adjust the number depending on a number of things, what claims are looking like and how much money we have left in reserve, right? So we look at that. So that's not necessarily where we're going to land, but that's where we are right now. And it's important to note, it's not looking like we're going to have a 1.5. Like last year at this time, we were at a 4.5 or a 5.5.
Somewhere in there.
So last year at this time, we were at a 4% increase. We got it down to a 1.5. Right now, we're at 12.45. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea. It's going to be different this year. And then obviously, there's just contracts that we have with different bargaining units, and contractual increases are going to have an impact on the budget. So as far as staffing changes from 22-23 to 23-24, and I realized I didn't change that in the last slideshow because it should be from 23-24 to 24-25, and I apologize for that typo. But we are looking at, I will have, when I officially present the budget in January, there's going to be some proposed changes that I have from a staffing standpoint, which I just wanted to highlight now. This is the first bullet is something that we've discussed in the past, which is the sharing of the occupational therapist services with another district. Currently, we have a contract with an occupational therapist. Contracted employees are generally higher costs than having an employee of our own. So we're looking to employ a 1.0 FTE of an occupational therapist for next year, and actually subcontract them out to another local school district at a 0.4 FTE. So they'd be our employee, but we would share the cost with another school district. So it's a good opportunity for us to save money on the contractor and then be able to reap a little bit of revenue by contracting that person out. One of the things that I'm going to propose in the operating budget for this coming school year too is to create a director of curriculum and instruction 12-month administrative position. So last year the board was supportive of the idea of creating a position called a curriculum coordinator instructional coach position. It is a 10-month teaching position in the teachers bargaining unit. It has been a very, very beneficial position to have in the limited time that it's existed. But I think that I hinted at it last year that it was a step in a direction of what I had hoped to ultimately achieve, which was to reinstate the director of curriculum 12-month position that was eliminated, Dr. Cerruti, 5 years ago. 5 years ago, the position was eliminated through the budgetary process. And I will say that I think it's detrimental to the district to not have a full-time 12-month administrator whose primary focus is on improving curriculum and instructional practices. And the board saw a presentation on our data achievement, on our student achievement data, and it was not as what we would have typically expected it. And I think that is a confluence of a variety of factors. But I think that one of those factors, not the only factor, but one of those factors is the fact that we haven't had somebody in that position for the past several years. And I think it would be incredibly beneficial for us to bring that position back into existence. Another known position that, again, I'm going to propose to the board at our January meeting, our meeting in a few weeks, is the addition of clerical support for the facilities office. Going back to what I was talking about earlier, this is a building that is aging. And I don't have the data for you now, but when we come in January, we come back together later in January, I will have some numbers about the amount of the financial impact that we spend on facilities improvements, projects that we do, and it is significant. And right now, our facilities department is a department of one. We have Michael Schlehofer, who's been here for several years as our director of facilities, and he not only manages the projects, but he's doing the clerical work that is necessary for project management. And those projects are only going to increase over the next handful of years, and I think having clerical support for that office is going to be critically important. I'll just simply say that, and this is more for our newer board members, I absolutely anticipate, and veteran board members, I anticipate continuing the process that we did last year with the administrators, which is looking at every resignation and retirement that comes across our desk and saying, is this a position that we need to replace at this point? Right? That's a critical conversation that we're having. The board approved the consent agenda of a resignation of health and phys ed teacher, right? I will tell you, I've had lengthy conversations with the high school administration. We need to replace that position. We won't be able to meet student needs and have enough classes if we don't do that. Last year, as many of you know, we had a resignation of a world language teacher. We were able to figure it out that we didn't need to replace that position. So every single position that we look at that is known retirement or resignation, we say, is this a position that we need to replace? I have every expectation of continuing that process. So if we get unexpected or unanticipated resignations or retirement through the duration of this school year, we're going to analyze those positions, and there could be some different staffing changes as we go through the rest of the budget process. But I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Eric, if you could do the next slide for me, please. So this is just a slide that I wanted to cover capital. So our current adopted capital budget is $540,990. I think that the capital plan for each year and the capital budget for each year has tried to be around $500,000 over the past several years. And it's been incredibly beneficial to the district because we do have aging facilities that we do need to maintain and improve. Right now we have approximately $3 million in identified capital needs right now on our capital list. We are going through the process of we're about to initiate, I should say, the process of having a building evaluation done of our entire facility to get a more updated idea of what our capital budget should be. The last time a survey was done for the district was in 2015. And so we're working with information that is almost 10 years old at this point. And so the board had the foresight to say, hey, listen, we need to get an updated capital, a budget, a building survey done, and we're about to embark on that process. And I think it's going to be really helpful to have this. So our number is 3,100,000 right now. It could go up, and I would anticipate that it will after that survey is done.
It could go down also.
It could. We don't, yes. So capital, so our current balance for capital non-recurring is 617,494 as of November 30th. The majority of these funds are earmarked for addressing the athletic fields. That's been a project that we have been working on for the past several years, at least trying to get the projects going. And we're anticipating some work being started on that this coming spring. I wanted to note that we do not yet have the specific amount of the 22-23 surplus funds from the operating budget, but we should know that by our February board meeting, and 2% of those surplus funds can be allocated towards our capital non-recurring account. And so the board will ultimately have to make a decision when we know what our surplus was from last fiscal year, how we want to utilize that money. Next slide, please, Eric. So the next steps in the budget timeline are, we have a facility subcommittee meeting tomorrow night to discuss our capital budget for next year. Again, that's going to be a virtual meeting that happens tomorrow. We are going to have, we're slated to have a presentation, a more formal and comprehensive presentation of next year's budget to the board on January 22nd. We have, as Mike Sharon alluded to, there are budget workshops that take place over the course of January and February. We have two that we have definitively scheduled for the 29th and the 5th. And we have an alternative date of 2/12 if necessary, or it also might not be an alternative date. It could be an additional date. If there's more information that the board needs after our February 5th meeting, we could certainly decide to have that meeting on the 12th if necessary. We have a regular board meeting on the 26th. I'm working right now to schedule workshops with towns, with the 3 different towns. I've been in touch with different people from the different towns trying to get those on the books. Usually those happen in mid to late March. And what I do is I go and I do a presentation on the RHAM board budget to our 3 sending towns, either the Board of Finance, the Board of Selectmen, or both. We have a public budget hearing on the 1st, and then we have our annual budget meeting and our budget referendum in April. I can certainly take any questions if people have any, but that concludes my presentation.
A quick scheduling question.
Yep.
The budget workshops, if I remember, those are just the meetings where the program coordinators come in and present their program, math department.
Correct.
Department coordinators, that's the correct term, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I was trying to jog my memory.
Yeah, so it's a great reminder. It's the department coordinators, the different directors, or athletic director, or facilities director, they'll come and they'll present their budgets. They'll present a small number of slides on their specific budgets. Last year, we did that over the course of 3 meetings. Some of those meetings were very brief, like 45 minutes, and I felt it would be more practical to, instead of having 3 meetings of 45 minutes, to have maybe 2 meetings of an hour and 20 minutes or an hour and a half, just for people scheduling. But as I said, if the need is there to go on and have a 3rd meeting again, we can certainly do that.
Is the usual 6:30 time?
Correct.
The $3 million, is that what you anticipate for over 10 years?
It's not even I don't even know if there's a definitive timeline on it.
So that's going to be had based on the 2015 facility survey that occurred.
Okay,
So that's
The
the
cost
items
of the
that we have
project.
not touched yet that are still in there.
but we only have the 540 budgeted for the year.
Correct.
Got it. Close.
And that plan that was done in 2015, or I shouldn't say the plan, but the list that was created from 2015 since 2015, things have been added to it. We've identified things over the past 9 years and said, well, this should go in the capital, and because it's a large ticket item. So, we've tackled a lot of the things over the course of the past handful of years because the board has been good and the voters have been supportive of having approximately $500,000. But unfortunately, each year the list gets bigger.
Yeah, I mean, for folks that aren't familiar with what that survey consists of, it's an audit of the facility basically, right? We're looking at all the systems, the water system, the gas system, the HVAC, the drains, the sidewalks, the parking lot, everything, right? And so architects and engineers come in and they do an estimate as to the life expectancy of all of those systems. And that's what goes in. And they do an estimate as to the cost to replace or repair and maintain those systems. And that's the report that Colin's referring to. It's nearly 10 years old. So we're looking to have that refreshed. I think we're in the process of doing that right now.
We've identified the contractor.
Okay, it's actually in tonight's
It is.
agenda. So I think it'll be beneficial to us. There may be some systems that are doing better than we anticipated. And there may be some that, maybe are not. So, but I think it's best that we have the most up-to-date information. So the board collectively endorsed going forward and doing.
Is there a suggested general cadence for having such a, overall overview like that?
That's a good question.
10 years, is that too much? Should it be on a 5-year schedule or something?
I don't know what the industry standard is.
I don't know if there's an industry standard, but I think that we're going to have a pretty good feel on whether or not that was sufficient when we get the results of the survey. So I would suggest that if we see a pretty big difference, then maybe we might want to consider either increasing or decreasing the period of time in between doing so. That's a good question.
Any comments from online? Okay. So the next thing.
That's it.
Yeah, so I could speak to that real quick, and then Mike Schlehofer is attending virtually as well. Also in your packet tonight are several memos related to RFPs that were recently put out by the district for certain projects and work that needs to be done for the district. And so I'm going to we'll go through these one at a time, and I'll just do a quick explanation. And then if there's somebody wants to put a motion on the table, or I could answer any questions, and we can go through the process of seeing if there's a interest in doing a motion. So the first state closure is 13.4A, and it is a bid award related to the central office rooftop replacement unit. So this is a project that was a part of our capital plan for this year. So we had budgeted $125,000 to have this have the rooftop unit replaced for both heating and air conditioning, and humidity is a big reason of it as well.
It's good beer.
The humidity in central office space is
Lovely.
it's wonky at best. Again, the budgeted amount for this project was $125,000. Our lowest qualified responsible bidder came in at $94,026. So which is a good win for us. And basically there could be a motion from a board member to authorize me to go into executing contract. But Michael is hopefully Michael's there. And we can certainly try to answer any questions if people have it about that specific project.
Yes, Colin, I'm available if anybody has any questions.
What's the expected lifespan of the replacement?
Michael, did you hear that?
Yes, expected lifespan replacement is 20 years.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion to authorize the superintendent, Colin McNamara, to finalize and execute a contract with Action Air Systems, Inc. for the central office rooftop replacement unit?
Make the motion.
Scott?
I'll second.
Mike? Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anybody abstain?
So I'll refer next to enclosure 13.4B, which relates to the bid award for snow removal. So our snow removal services contract expires at the conclusion of this fiscal year, June 30th, 2024. So we put out an RFP for that work to be done. The lowest qualified reasonable bidder came in with from EA Quinn. It would be a 5-year contract. Our current, just from I want to make sure people understand the finances because it's not a part of this memo. So our current yearly cost for snow removal is $84,460. That cost actually would remain the same for the next 3 years. Their bid has the same cost for the next 3 years, and then it would increase to $86,000 for the remaining 2 years of the contract. So again, lowest qualified reasonable bid. And Michael and I can certainly answer any questions if you want.
Okay, do we have a motion to authorize the superintendent, Colin McNamara, to finalize and execute a contract with EA Quinn for snow removal services?
So moved. Dave Marks.
Second?
Second.
Drew? Any other discussion for Michael or? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone abstain?
So the next one, the next memo in your packet is 13.4C. That is the bid award for landscaping services. Similar to the snow removal, it expires on June 30th. A different contractor, Local Choice Landscaping's bid submission was the lowest qualified reasonable bidder. This was shockingly and happily good news. Our current contract is $80,000 per year. Their bid was $79,000 for each year of the 5-year contract. And again, Michael and I can certainly entertain any questions that board members might have.
Okay, do we have a motion to authorize the superintendent, Colin McNamara, to finalize and execute a contract with Local Choice Landscaping for landscaping services?
So
Second?
I'll second.
Mike and Mike again. I know, I've got my little initials here. Okay, any discussion on that? Okay,
All right. So
yeah, no.
you have to vote on.
Oh.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone abstain? We're gonna make it through this.
We are, yeah. We're supposed to keep me straight. So the next enclosure is 13.4D, and Mike Schlehoff, would you mind speaking to this one a little bit? Because I think that you could probably explain this a little bit better than I could. I could certainly do my best, but you probably could explain this one. This one actually relates to the building survey that we were just discussing related to CIP plan.
Sure. So the facility assessment that'll take place through Alpha is $30,000. It'll cover again the exterior systems, interior systems, heating, ventilation, the air conditioning, electrical and the electrical distribution systems, the plumbing systems, the fire protection systems. They'll look at the elevators, and then they'll do a site survey of pavement and sidewalks. And again, that's for $30,000. Then there's an additional 2 options that I discussed with the facility subcommittee that would require additional funding for, it's what they call equipment inventory and barcoding. So they'll tag all the high valued items such as your boilers, your chillers, all your air handler units, assign them barcodes and ID numbers, and they'll give that to the district in an Excel form that then can be uploaded into a work order program. They're also going to, for that fee, supply us with a PM schedule for such equipment as well. That will then also be able to be upgraded or uploaded up into the work order system. So the total for the program would be about $38,947.
Do we have a motion to authorize the superintendent, Colin McNamara, to finalize and execute a contract with Alpha Facility Solutions for the building survey for CIP planning? Scott, okay.
Before we vote, though, I just want to know what's covered with the, what sorts of things are barcode? Obviously boilers, things like that, but can't be down as far as staplers. So what's the smallest sorts of things that's covered by this?
So what they list is that heating, air conditioning, ventilation, so your air handlers, your boilers, your automated building system, your chillers, chilled water, hot water circulation pumps that are greater than 1 horsepower, your cooling towers, cooling tower pumps greater than 1 horsepower, your energy recovery units, your exhaust fans on the rooftop only, packaged units, heater ventilators, furnaces, heat pumps, electrical, main distribution panels, switch gears, trash compactors that are permanently installed, your commercial kitchen equipment such as your boilers, your walk-ins, your refrigerators, dishwashers, plumbing, main backflow preventers, domestic water booster pumps, sub pumps, storage tanks, life safety such as your fire alarm panel, your sprinkler system, fire suppression for the kitchen, fire pump, extinguishers, AEDs, eye washes, your elevators, and then commercial overhead garage doors and openers.
Okay, thank you.
It's all part of that list.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone abstain? Yep. So we need a motion to approve the reallocation of $8,947 from capital non-recurring unallocated to the capital non-recurring building survey project. We have a motion? Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone abstain?
Okay, so now we're up to 13.5A in the handout. So 13.5A is your expenditure and revenue report as of November 30th, 2023. I'm currently in there is a proposed net favorable position of $141,441,000. This is approximately a little less than $25,000 that was reported in the month of at November board meeting. We have received the magnet school tuition payment, and we were paying them. Unfortunately, the half-day programs the invoices are still outstanding, but we only have 3 students that are half-day, so I'm not anticipating that too much more is coming down that pike. For capital improvement fund, the desk collection system was supposed to be finished on 12/30, but I don't know if that has been accomplished yet or not. The central office HVAC system, the contract would be approved as it was tonight. And the building survey contract was awarded and should have been approved tonight, which it was. Thank you for those. And the capital non-recurring fund is currently focusing on the remaining projects. So the field and drainage repair did go out to bid. It was posted on 12/22 Friday. And we have a bid walkthrough on this coming Wednesday. In the pupil services department, after each IEP or individual education plan meeting for students, we'll review purchase orders to make sure that the services, tuition, and or any changes are captured so that everything is encumbered in the financial system correctly and we can account for students. Are there any questions that the board may have at this time?
So what are the magnet school tuitions?
So we, in the state of Connecticut, because of Chef versus O'Neill, we, the district, have to pay for sending our students to various districts. So Crack itself runs numerous magnet schools. There's another, I can't think of another one, but there's somebody down here. There's a lot of them on the Route 2 corridor, and parents have the ability to register their students to go to these schools, and then we have to pay the tuition costs. for the
Okay,
students.
interesting. How many students?
Who, off the top of my head, I don't know, but I can get that for you for the next meeting.
Oh, yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
looking for scale. But I mean, 5, 100.
Oh, no, there's a lot, but we also pay for VOAG and agri-science, or, well, no, we don't pay for VOAG, we pay for the agri-science, so Lyman, program and Glastonbury's program also. And there's about 10 kids in those.
I can get the numbers and share.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm curious. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, so moving on. We have 13.5B, which is a flexible spending account that we are allowed to provide to our employees. And the IRS has increased limits. So as part of the agreement that is attached, there's a well, it's not the agreement, it's a certificate of resolution. We want to keep up with the IRS limits so that our employees can maximize their flexible spending accounts. So it is increased to 3,200 from the current of 3,050. So we're asking the board to allow the superintendent to enter to sign off that you guys are okay with our increase in that amount. That could be made.
These are funded to the
The
staff.
employees themselves.
Yeah. I'm surprised it needs board approval.
Yeah, because we have somebody else who watches our plan for us. It's a third party that watches our plan. They just have to make sure that the board is okay with any.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So we need a motion to allow the district's plan to increase the contribution limits from the current amount to match the new limit as set for the IRS to $3,200 for the calendar year 2024.
So move.
Drew, second. Kirsten. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone abstain?
Thank you for that. 13.5C is your food service monthly sales and expenditure report for November 30th, 2023. An update to this is the supply chain third allocation has finally arrived and we received $32,091.46 as opposed to the $30,968 that was in the memo that was written. This helps with the inflationary costs on food. And in October, that was around 8% was what the inflationary cost was. As you can see on the flip side of that page, as of this time, as November 30th, sorry, the program itself in this calendar year or fiscal year is running at a loss of $91,822,000. But the $32,000 that we just received negates that loss. So, are there any questions on the report? So, hearing none, I'm going to move on. 13.5D is the RHAM Middle and High School Student Activity Report. And so the report balances and matches to the bank statement. So each activity or class is allowed to have funds that benefit the students directly. So they're usually fundraise funds, class dues, other ways that the students can get money, prom tickets, those kind of things that fund, that these are the funds for them, yearbook sales. So are there any questions on your student activity? Okay, so hearing none, the 13.5E is a short-term investment fund account. So last fiscal year, there was a decision made by the Board of Education to invest $300,000 of our capital non-recurring funds. Since they're just going to be sitting in the bank, we figured this was going to be a better investment as opposed to having just regular bank interest. So I feel like the board made a wonderful decision because we seem to be doing well in this department. So as of November, what was reinvested, the dividend reinvestment was $1,572.89. The second page is the statement, and the third page shows you the historical rates for the month of November. And as you can see, the annualized rate increased from November 1st to November 30th. Are there any questions that the board may have on that? Thank you.
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda are the committee reports. Facility, safety, transportation.
All right, we're going to start. All right, so we're meeting tomorrow, January 4th. 6 o'clock, I think, maybe. And the plan is to go through the initial proposal for budgetary needs for the 24-25 school budget or district budget. One of the things that I did want to expand on a little bit is David talked about the fact that we have some RFQs going out right now for one of the athletic fields and the perimeter drains around that athletic field. Some of you may have heard that over the course of the last 5 years, there's been a number of initiatives that are focused on making improvements to the athletic fields here on the grounds. Focus of those areas were primarily the comp field, which is the football field that's on the inside perimeter of the track. In addition to that, though, there's a baseball outfield, which is the next field up. If you drive along the side of the building here, you notice that the fields are tiered. So comp field being at the bottom, baseball outfield is the mid area, and then at the top is the 316 fields, north and south, or is it east and west? East and west, north and south. North and south. And that's broken into two sections. That's really practice services. It takes a pretty good beating, but it keeps the folks from tearing up the comp field, right? Whether they're playing lacrosse, soccer, football, whatever it happens, field hockey, whatever it happens to be. Well, the fields are in somewhat of a state of disrepair. Drainage is a significant issue, which is what's primarily contributing to the problems that we're seeing. Standing water, things of that nature. And the track surface itself is really just showing its age. So we went through an effort, brought in a company to do some testing on each of these areas and provide us with what they saw as estimated costs to repair each of these surfaces. And they gave us a number of options. We went out to quote last year. And I'm pausing to be corrected just in case. And the quotes came back extremely high, much higher than what was projected by the company that we hired to come in and do the assessment. Now, I will also clarify that the replacement or the repairs are intended to be a natural surface. Right? Some of what you may be familiar with is a referendum vote from 3 years ago, which was to come in and put in an artificial surface. So the message was loud and clear coming out of that referendum vote. And so we were looking to pursue natural surface repairs. Nevertheless, some of the feedback that we received was that the manner in which we packaged or coupled the improvement requests in our RFQ may have put activities that were not necessarily within the experience level of the vendors that were coming in to make the proposals on these areas. We had a perimeter drain, and then we also had a very specialized surface treatment and application where we're going to do some addition of material, some slicing of the surface, some overseeding. The company that came in quoted both of those. And so the feedback that we got was that we likely eliminated our list of potential contractors and essentially limited the competition that we were looking for. So we feel like that combined with coming out of COVID may have contributed to some pretty high bids. Nevertheless, it sounds like we're going back out for some bids on at least the perimeter drains and
we're shooting for both of them. We just redefined what the language was.
okay, got it.
Timing was another factor. Just the
Yeah.
timing was the timing of when we wanted the project to start.
Right.
It was a
Timing is sensitive due to the fact that you have field usage that is in need, right? Not only for practice, but for actual games. And so we needed to make sure that the timing of the repairs was such that not only when the work was being performed, but the recovery of the surface would support timely use of the area. So I wanted to give you all some background. You're going to hear a little bit more about it. You're going to see there are requests for funds coming up to pay for some of this activity. Included in at least the Collins initial review of some of the financials that we have to look forward to when we go through our budget season is the non-recurring capital fund, which has a little over $600,000, maybe $650,000 in it. That's essentially been earmarked for these projects that I'm describing for you right now. So I wanted to give you a brief update on some background on what we're doing, what we've been up to for the past couple of years in response to the failed referendum measure to come in with artificial. So we're looking for some competitive quotes to move forward on those plans. Discussing it.
Is there lighting also included in the original?
There was lighting included in the original proposal as well. The one that went to referendum.
Right.
There was lighting. There was a turf, bleachers, and a place to buy.
No, I don't think
No,
the
that's-
concession stand, that was when we originally opened this building or built the
Okay.
building. That's where the
Are there
concession.
No
lights?
concessions.
Are there lights there now?
They're not lights there now.
So lights are back on the table or off?
No, lights are not, they're not back on the table. And part of the reason for that in assessing whether or not that was something that the committee wanted to pursue was that in the event that we need lights, we can rent them.
Okay.
For not a significant cost, because it's not every sport is looking to utilize nighttime. We do currently, there are some nighttime games, but they're away games. So trying to maintain fiscal conservative, and the lights were beyond our needs at this time.
For the few nights a year that they would get you. Yeah.
Well, I also think people like the idea of Friday night lights. They enjoy that experience. One concern that I would have about lights is when you have lights on a field, you have usually a strong, not only school desire to use it, but you have a strong community desire to use the field too. And if we don't have turf, the field could get chewed up pretty quick. So if we ever put lights on, and then we had a lot of youth football, youth soccer, youth lacrosse saying, we want to, there's potential revenue for field usage, but there's the downside of the fields could get overused pretty darn quick. So.
Okay, so next is finance, audit, compliance, and insurance, and that's on the last page standing. So I'll be joining you guys tomorrow for that discussion.
And if I could just interject, so just all of our subcommittee meetings are generally held virtually, and even board members, even if you're not on a subcommittee, if you have an interest in the discussion around capital budget, if you have an interest in something else, you're always free to jump into that meeting part of the conversation.
So do you want to share how the committee?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So you could see that one thing that wasn't done was the board members that left were not taken off of this list. So there's some board members that are no longer on the board, or former board members that are listed here. And so we do have gaps that need to be filled. And so the way that the process works for having people be onto subcommittees is, if I'm remembering it correctly, those people are put onto the subcommittee by the chair of the board. What generally happens though is people will say, I'm interested in this particular thing. Mike has a proclivity towards engineering, and as a result of Mike being an engineer, he hopefully I'm not misspeaking, enjoys the facilities subcommittee.
Yes.
And so he's an active part of that subcommittee and other ones as well. So what I would say to everybody, if it's okay with you, is if you are interested in a particular area, whether it's finance, whether it's negotiations, whether it's facilities, or whether it is, thank you, program. And program, just for everybody's knowledge, is around instructional things. If we're going to create a new class or a new course, we will come to the program subcommittee, we'll present that new course, and usually just get the informal approval of the, it's not like they vote on whether or not the class is going to be approved or not, but they basically just support the idea of that new course being put into existence. We actually had probably about 5 new classes that we identified over the course of this past year, over the course of this fall, that we're going to have go into effect for next year. So that's the program subcommittee. With regards to facilitators, on the second, on the last page, it says there's 2 facilitators that could potentially be involved with different organizations. EastCon is our local RESC, our Regional Educational Service Center. They service the needs of the school districts out in this particular area of the state. There's 5, I think, RESCs spread across the state of Connecticut, and they're all regionally, they support schools and districts in their region. Formerly, we had a board member who was a member of their, the EastCon board. And I will tell you that the EastCon executive director is a former RHAM employee and a good colleague to RHAM. He would love to have somebody from the RHAM Board of Ed be a member of the executive board or board for EastCon. So there's a need there. Carrie already serves in the capacity as the board's facilitator for CAPE. So just if you want to think about, and I'll maybe send a reminder out in my week in review to board members, if you have an area that you're interested in being involved in, you can shoot me an email. Heather and I can have that conversation, and we can go about getting people placed onto different subcommittees as well.
Are the appropriate Zoom links for the various meetings that we, even if we're not, if we'd like to attend or something like that, are they on the website? Where are they?
They're posted on the Board of Ed. They're posted on the school district website under Board of Ed agendas and minutes. And then there's a separate link for each one of the subcommittees. And then you can get into the link for the meeting.
Okay.
But if you have an interest in coming to one, you could just shoot us an email and say, hey, Colin, could you just add me to the calendar invite? And that's something that we can easily do.
Okay.
So that brings us to negotiations, and there's no one on that committee.
Yeah, so we will have negotiations coming up, just to put it on everybody's radar. We'll have negotiations with our non-certified staff and our nurses this coming spring. I actually was just talking about this earlier today. So there will be a need to identify some people to be on the negotiation subcommittee. So if that's something that you have an interest or proclivity for, it'd be, well, again, let us know and we'll get you put on there.
Okay, so then the policy committee, Carrie or Gabe?
Hi. So the policy committee, basically for the last several months, we have been reviewing all of our policies. I want to say last year it was last year, right, Colin, that we had the audit from the lawyers. So the wording is being adjusted. So we have our next meeting on, I believe it's January 9th. And at that point, we will review the policies that Colin and his staff have identified and see what we can bring to the table for next month's meeting. That's all I have.
Program and communication? That's you know.
Oh, yeah, that is us.
Next meeting is,
we can.
yeah, that can't, okay. Okay, so, perfect. And then EastCon, I don't know if there's a report from there. And Carrie, any report on CABE?
There is really nothing on CABE. It's very quiet. Nancy sends us all of those emails, and I will reach out again and see if I can get them consolidated. I know everybody's inbox is hammered with them, but with that said, I do recommend that people do take a look at what webinars and classes are offered, because they have some very valuable things. And I believe maybe one or two of the new members attended the new member day for CABE. It was, I think, at the Marriott in Rocky Hill. I attended that when I was new, and it was fantastic, and it really helped me navigate as a new board member.
Yeah, I attended. I did it 20 years ago as well when I was on another board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Did you,
I was on Andover's board for 8 years, but I've been off for 12, so it seemed like a good idea to go back and do it over again.
did you enjoy the seminar?
Yeah, it was well done. I expected to be bored to tears, but it was well done. I enjoyed it.
Well, I think they also talk about some important legal aspects of being a board member. So
Yeah.
again, I would recommend everybody kind of take a peek at what's being offered.
Are we members by virtue of our membership on this board? Is that how that works? Okay.
Yeah, so the district,
I wasn't sure. I was looking around the website and, they have all this stuff and I wasn't sure exactly how new members.
so the district pays a membership fee to CABE, and that is all inclusive of board.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good.
And that gets you a lot of the things, but not everything they've got. Like the policy service is separate fee.
Yeah.
Okay. We use Shipping and Goodwin, so
That brings us back to public comment again. Hebron, Andover, and Marlborough community engagement and attendance at BOE public meetings is welcomed. The public comment segment of the meeting agenda is set aside so the BOE may receive public comments. Procedurally, public remarks will be limited to 3 minutes, and citizens will be asked to identify themselves. Because the BOE is limited by the Freedom of Information Act to discussing only matters on the agenda, the BOE is not permitted to engage in a discussion of the comments presented. Eric, is there anybody online who's expressed an interest? Okay.
I'll say something. I never get to say anything, so here we go. Michael Searcy, middle school principal. Just want to welcome the new board members. Congratulations and condolences. Congratulate board members who are now part of our executive board. And we all look forward to working with you, myself and my administrative colleagues, along with the staff. So, look forward to thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the informational items are the 16.1 in your packet.
Yeah, so we always like to just include information about any kind of upcoming events that are taking place. I'll just say the quiet of the holiday season is kind of behind us, and we're not opposed to that being the case right now. So there's not as much going on with regards to evening events. We had the play, we had the school concerts. I will say I always encourage board members, come to some of our sporting events. We haven't had a meeting since our winter sports kicked into full season, and it's a great opportunity to see some of the good stuff that our students are doing. We do have midterms coming up, which is causing, anxiety, I'm sure, maybe in some of your households with kids that you might have in the school district. But there always seems to be something going on here. And if you're ever interested in attending anything, please join us.
And the 16.2 is a student discipline.
Yeah, so just for everybody's knowledge, so this is just information. It's high level information that's provided to the board at each board meeting. It just provides information about student discipline. It enables us to look at patterns, trends, anything like that. I can't really speak about any of this. This is just high level information that we provide. I can't really get into, obviously, individual student disciplinary data. But it does just provide our number of in-school suspensions and out-of-school suspensions by month and by infraction, I guess I would say. And, but I have nothing really to comment.
But what happens in October? Why did they shoot up in October?
The quiet of September comes to a conclusion, and sometimes
Halloween.
That really is.
Yeah, Halloween.
Yeah.
But then December, there's,
Well, we didn't report December because this was
oh,
like
okay.
we
Yep.
always report a month back so we can give the full information. We didn't have it.
Is the first column the total or the,
Was closed in.
Okay.
I'm just curious, I'm trying to read.
Correct. So that's so the first column to the left is the number of suspensions.
Yeah,
And then the second column is the number of days. So sometimes you might have one suspension, but it could be for 2 or 3 days.
so just for November, it says 2 for November, then conduct 2, and then vaping 2. Does that mean, it should be, the 29 days seems kind of a lot.
Almost 15 days for students.
Is that 15 per?
Which one are we looking at?
I was just looking at November. I was like, whoa.
We
So
don't issue
November's
15
2,
days.
and then,
Middle school.
and, yeah, it's middle school.
Yeah, I get
So it just seemed.
Oh.
I
High
could,
school, yeah.
I could, correct. The maximum number of suspensions, the maximum number of days that you can give in a suspension is 10 days. After a 10-day suspension, it's essentially an expulsion.
Okay.
I'm going to check on that.
I was just more curious. Don't put any work into it. It was more of the number of 29 sort of jumped out at me like, whoa.
Likely an error.
I would say it's a typo, but I can.
Yeah, if you want. You got enough to do, don't worry about that.
Well, not until you open it back up to the next slide.
Add my notes.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So,
So the meeting's done, Eric.